Micheal, were you happy with the way and the manner in which you came back into this contest? Can you explain why?
No, because what we did in the first half, in the first 20 minutes, is nowhere near the level. So to do it after is too late. Yeah, we reacted, great, but the standards in those 20 minutes was unacceptable.
What do you put down to that first opening 20 minutes? Can you explain what they are? No?
Already done in the dressing room, yeah.
But you got a reaction in the second half, at half-time. So what did you say at half-time to your players?
It's about action, not reaction.
Was it the emotion attached to what happened in midweek? Maybe why your players, you feel, weren't on it in the first 20 minutes or so?
Then you don't have to be fighting for trophies, because when you fight for trophies, you might win it, you might lose it, and then it's another one, and that's it. So that's the level that we have to ask ourselves. You know, you just accept things, and in my opinion, not acceptable.
Not accepting things, but how hard then, how much weight is on these players to win something, to have that mentality to overcome all of this?
There's no way to win. Is that you have to be. Nobody can promise that you win. They cannot promise you do what you want, you go in the market. Nobody's going to promise. You're going to have 6, 7 people just praying to be in Champions League first, and then see we can win a silverware next season. That's it. It's not about that. It's just doing the basics, the simple things that you can dominate. I'm not asking anybody to dribble 2 players, put it in the top corner. Never going to do that.
What reaction then are you expecting from your players to see in the next 2 remaining games that you have? Because the game against Newcastle is so important for you.
Yeah, the action that we had after those 20-25 minutes, and especially in the second half. That's what I'm. Not me, them. It's not about me. Ask him. It's not about that.
How much more then, if it's not you, how much more can you get out of that group of players, because your standards are so high?
No, my responsibility. That's when the team plays like this. That's on me. 20 minutes. Yeah, that's on me for sure.
Are you suggesting then that the players perhaps aren't at the level that you want them to be at, if it's not down to you?
They know me. And it's not about the players. Yeah? It's about we. It's not here players, manager, nothing. Nobody accepts those standards, and they will have to be nowhere near what we did in the second half. With all respect, with all the things that we have to be in the position that we are in, 15 points, I mean, it hurts. It has to hurt a lot. Well, regardless of all the excuses, and it's the 6th time we play with 10 men, 6 times this season. And all the injuries, we have half of the team, half of the starters not starting. It doesn't matter. Still, look what we can do when we are there. So that's it, that's the standards.
Okay, no, I've got a couple more to ask, if that's possible. When you say about the standards then, is it about the emotions, how your players deal with it emotionally during a match?
No. It's about that we respect the game in a manner that we plan and we have to do. That's it.
Good luck for the remaining 2 games. Thank you, Micheal.
Emotional, spiky, frustrated. All the words.
The 20 minutes, the first 20 minutes?
Yeah, I mean, in the first half, it wasn't good enough. I think against PSG, they started very well. He wants them obviously to start a little bit brighter, a bit sharper than that. That wasn't the case today. It started really well. Didn't have Wright today with them energetic runs, but we can't keep blaming that. I've given Arsenal loads of excuses this season with Saka and Gabriel and Havertz, key players, and I think that does matter over the season.
Is he almost sort of trying to say, look, this is potentially one of the toughest moments in our season because of what we've been through this week. We've just lost the Champions League semi-final. We're coming to the home of the champions, and we have to be there still. Is that what he's driving at?
Yeah, he's driving high standards, but I think the thing that really sort of stood out in the interview for me, and I think Mikel Arteta in the last couple of weeks in terms of his press conferences, he's saying things and he's getting emotional. And at times he's sounding like a little bit of a fan, not so much the manager. I think he mentioned something out there. He was really strong on how many players they've had sent off this season.
6, yeah.
6. He's putting his hand at 6. I think he's convinced inside that there's almost they've been victims this season in some ways. You know, they've had the 6 sendings off, the injuries that they've had. I think deep down, thinks they could have won the league without this, and that the red cards are not their fault. It was the referees and the injuries. 8 and 9 players week in, week out, and him never rotating. But I'm a massive fan of Mikel Arteta. I think he's a brilliant manager. I think the job he's done and to get Arsenal where they are. Let's not forget, for a good few years it was them and Tottenham fighting for Champions League positions. Then they made this jump to compete with sort of Manchester City, and they followed it up again last season, and they're the team who've pushed Liverpool this season, and this felt like it should have been their season. Now, there's no doubt next season the pressure will be on Mikel Arteta massively in terms of winning something and winning something big. And the Arsenal board, if they don't do that, will have a massive issue, because they won't want to change the manager, but there won't be that many people saying 5 or 6 years without a trophy, and they'll be looking at how many managers can make that next step. The problem with changing Mikel Arteta, because as I said, I think he's done a brilliant job at Arsenal, is Arsenal could easily become what Chelsea are right now. Or not so much Manchester United and Tottenham this season, but they could go from a team who are coming second year in, year out, to a team who don't actually get into the Champions League. And that's the big conundrum Arsenal as a football club will have in 12 months. If Arsenal go close again but don't actually get across the line.
I suppose the bigger question is, in the wider context, is success finishing second, which they could still do for a third successive season. And incidentally, the last time they did that, they won the double the next season. And reaching a Champions League semi-final.
I think it's progress, but success is winning things. Obviously, don't forget he won the FA Cup earlier on in his tenure.
So what if they win the Carragher Cup next year then?
Well, that's not the one that you want to win. FA Cup, Premier League, Champions League, that's what we're looking at. They got to the semi-finals. There's been progression. But I think success is when you win things. Let's go back to his record. I think he finished 8th twice, and then the 5th, and then 2nd twice as well. So they're moving in a direction. I think he's the man to take them over the line. I just think he's frustrated in how the season's gone.
It feels like next season has to be the season, because you can't
control everything, though, can you, Jamie? I mean, I just want to show you a graphic. He talked about the luck that's involved sometimes, and I think you're right. He said sometimes he feels like the luck has gone against his side, but to go 84 points, 89 points, and this season to be second best to Liverpool as well. And all right, it might feel like an opportunity slip, but over the course of the last 3 seasons, only Manchester City have more points, 4 more than this Arsenal side have. But City have got 2 Premier League titles to show for it, and Liverpool have got the Premier League title to show for it this year.
Yeah. Yeah, and
so is that a question of good fortune then, or bad fortune in the case of Arsenal?
Listen, they've come up against the team who won the treble. They've come up against a Liverpool team this season with a new manager, have probably just gone up to another level no one was expecting. And that's why I keep going back to when I'm saying I think Mikel Arteta is a brilliant manager. I do. I don't think he's he's lucky to be in a job. He's gone 5 years without a trophy. He has created one of the best teams in Europe. There's no doubt about that. But what I would say is also to counter that is I played for a Liverpool team who come very close to winning the league title on 2 occasions. We were up against Alex Ferguson, the most successful manager in Premier League history. The Invincibles with Arsenal, Jose Mourinho and Abramovich's millions. No one cares about that anymore. They just say to me, "You didn't win the Premier League." No one. There's no like, but. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter how many points he's got there. It doesn't matter the fact he's up against Pep Guardiola. It doesn't matter how many injuries he's had or how many red cards he have. Have you won anything? No. That's the end of it.
As well, in a really entertaining game at Anfield between the top 2, did we just about get to the right result in the end, Jamie?
Yeah, I thought Arsenal, fair play to them, second half. You're thinking, I thought that could go on and be sort of 3-4.
They had to really dig deep there, didn't
they? I mean, getting the early goal helps, of course it does, but Liverpool just took the foot off the pedal. But it must have took a lot considering what they've been through in the last couple of weeks. I mean, they've lost 3 games in a row. Then coming to Anfield, 2-0 down at half-time to get something out of it. And if it would have been 11v11, I'm not sure the exact time that Moreno got sent off, but I think if it would have been 11v11, I think Arsenal probably would have looked a more likely team going forward to actually want to win the game.
79th minute.
Thanks, Dave.
I didn't want to come in, but I didn't want to interject.
Do you agree? Were they the more likely side at that stage?
Yeah, I think there was growing confidence in that second half. I think the tactical tweak putting Martinelli down the centre, Trossard a bit more to the left, and they're just growing confidence. I think you don't want the season to fizzle out, and they made sure that didn't happen. I mean, you don't want to be embarrassed here. I mean, it's like Jamie said against PSG, it was a tough one to take, so they was looking for reaction. Didn't get in the first half, but in the second half they did.
Just going back to, I was looking at Saliba on the first goal. He's not great on the second goal, and for me, I think he is one of the top centre-backs in European football. I've got no doubt about that. And as a partnership, him and Gabriel, as good as anything in the Premier League. I think Saliba's the better player, but I think Gabriel's the better leader. And he needs to bring that to his game if he wants to get to sort of the levels of what we talk about Virgil van Dijk.
So at the moment, do they almost sort of need each other in that
He needs Gabriel. I think since Gabriel has come out of the team, that's not the same Saliba. Okay, this guy next to me is the leader.
So 24,
okay.
24.
Okay, when he moves away, you've got to then become the leader of that back four and organise people and not just play your own game. For me, the great centre-backs, it's not about how good you are and what everything you can do. Oh, he's great in the air, he's got great pace, he's on the ball. You want all that, but you need to affect other people. Think of the great centre-backs down there. Think of Tony Adams. Think of Virgil van Dijk here. They're not just great players. They make everybody else around them look like great players. And that's the thing that I think is still lacking with Saliba. Without Gabriel, he doesn't look the same player. And that's not something you want to be labelled as. I mean, I'd be embarrassed if I was playing centre-back for Liverpool and people saying he's not the same player without him next to him. Yeah. Now, we say that about a lot of Liverpool centre-backs when Virgil van Dijk's not there. But he's very rarely out, and he makes the person alongside him look like a top player. And if I'm being totally honest, a lot of the Liverpool centre-backs over the last 3 or 4 years, I think Liverpool supporters think they're a lot better than they actually are because of who they were playing alongside.
Can I just ask you, though, as the game moved on, because we talk about positioning, you was all about positioning, being in the right spot, and I played centre-half a lot of games, but mainly at right-back. But is it because they're asked, what they're asked to do on the ball while they're getting into these positions? So a lot of the mistakes that you're talking about, some of them have been on the ball, the way he wants to play and sort of push into midfield at times, then he's getting caught. So on the first goal, you mentioned about him being really high, but as a coach, as Arteta, he might want him to be really high though. So are we being too critical in terms of them when they're on the ball?
Well, I'm not one of them who, there's certain people, sometimes I hear people say, oh, the centre-backs were better 10, 15, 20 years ago when I was playing. That is absolute rubbish. Centre-back now, for me, is the hardest position to play on the pitch. What you're asked to do on the ball from the goalkeeper, you're asked to be like a midfield player, you're asked to push up to the halfway line, you've got to have the pace of a striker. There's no doubt for me, centre-backs now, how good they are, they're better than what we've seen before, or they're asked to do a lot more. Whether those players of the past could do that today, I think a lot of them could, but it's a very demanding position.
Well, that was an extremely strong reaction from Mikel Arteta there. 15 points has to hurt, is he? What does he do? Suggesting the players aren't hurt by it, or?
You could see he's obviously had a tough week, and let's face it, he's had a very tough season with what's happening with what people say about him, to win a trophy, trying to win a trophy. If we do get something off from Newcastle and beat Southampton, it'll be the 3rd season on the spin that we finished 2nd. And, judging by that interview, it just felt to me like he's just, with everything that's happened up to this point, that first half and how slack and how lax it was, it's not acceptable for him. His standards are high, even though we're out of everything, apart from the Champions League. He wants to see them finish strong. He didn't make excuses about the injuries, didn't make excuses about the sending-offs. He was just disappointed in the way that they started, and this is why he's like he is. This is why I'm delighted that he's the manager, because he will never be satisfied. He won't take that kind of performance in the first half, and I'm sure he'll let them know. And what I'm hoping, Steve, is that the summer, because we missed it out the last summer, is that he makes the kind of signings that will come in and reiterate everything what he wants from his team, whether it's goal-scoring players, defensive players, whoever it is. Ideally, we can get some goal-scoring players, but he just needs to now, him and Andrea Berta, bring in the kind of players that can really take him to that next place, because what he was saying about that first 20 minutes sounds to me like he's just absolutely fuming. I've not seen him that bad in an interview before in respect of how angry he was. He was steaming.
How crucial is that recruitment? Because if they don't get it right, do you worry in any way, shape or form for Mikel Arteta for the start of next season? I
don't worry for him, because I know how much the owners think of him. I know how hard he's working to get this right. Obviously, a forward, Steve, is something that, I'm hearing now 7 years. We've missed out on maybe 5 windows. I don't know what it is. But we've still not got a forward. And I think that when you look at certain games, a forward would probably help us to get it over the line. So that is something that I believe in this next window needs to happen. People are talking about Zubimendi maybe done. What you need to do is we need to make sure that we bring in the kind of players that take this group to that next level of trying to get something. And I think a goal scorer or a goal-scoring player up front, in the front line, is somebody that's going to help us to do that, because I feel that, it's so frustrating this season, getting to as far as we did, with the injuries, with everything what's happened, and just falling short. But you say falling short, but we're 15 points behind. And he's right, it's not acceptable for us. But at the same time, he's still very proud of the fact that the players still had a go up to this point with all the players and everything that's gone on who we're missing at the moment.
Yeah, and you two goal scorers, that's, you know why you're the highest paid players in the dressing room and why you're the most sought after. Just to put this into context, Aubameyang was the last striker to get 20 goals for Arsenal. Salah 28 on the other side today. Their top 3 scorers added together are still 4 short of Salah. Arsenal here.
Yeah, exactly. As you say, Aubameyang, last striker really, the last big goal scorer, let's say. But Arteta got rid of him. Whether he was a problem in the dressing room, whatever it might have been, I don't know. But
no one's got 20 since then.
No, I know.
Mind you, no one's got 20 at Man United since Robin van Persie. I mean, it's not just Arsenal, is it?
No, it's not easy. And there's a serious dearth of centre-forwards around the world at the moment. You know, you look at, just in the Premier League for starters, you know, you could say Liverpool need a centre-forward. Luis Diaz as a centre-forward for half the last season. I mean, he's not a natural centre-forward. You know, Manchester United are desperate for one. Arsenal are desperate for one, or possibly 2. Chelsea probably need one. Virtually everyone needs a centre-forward. You know, I mean, gone are the days when there used to be 3 or 4 at every club that were all very, very good and could all score plenty of goals. Now, if you've got one, you're doing quite well. So they're hard to find, and they carry a premium. And Arsenal are more desperate probably than anybody, and they will overpay for one if necessary. But when you look around, who is there?
The thing is, you say that, Micah, and that's what's happened. You look at Højlund, I think he had 9 goals for Atalanta.
That's way overpaid, isn't it?
Absolutely, and the money they paid for him is, again, you're taking a chance on potential. Look at Darwin Núñez. You know,
85.
you take exactly 85. I'm not sure if Arsenal can afford to go in
get it wrong
and get it wrong like that. So you look at it and you think to yourself, yes, we desperately need a striker, but we need a kind of striker that's going to come in and will score, because we can't do a Højlund or a Darwin Núñez. I don't think we could do that. I think there'll be money for him to get in the summer, but we can't afford to buy the striker that doesn't work, because if let's face it with them two, they've not worked up to this point. So Arsenal again are fishing in a place where everybody is. So you're going to have to pay premium, but you're going to have to make sure that it's somebody who is going to deliver for you, because I don't think we can afford to do what Liverpool...
And is that perhaps why you've gone so many windows without one, because that obvious one wasn't there?
Well, maybe because, again, I feel that we can't afford to go in and 80 million, 90... That's why Isak was on the cards for us, because they're thinking, well, let's go for somebody that we know will do it here. And so, you know, there's talk about Gyökeres from Sporting. You know, maybe he could be the one. He's played there before, not at the Premier League level, but he's played in England before. So maybe he could be used to something. But, like, with the chances that hopefully can be made, we just need somebody who can put it away every now and then.
It's going to have to be a proven one, isn't it? Because as you mentioned, the way you're talking, right, the way the Arsenal fans are talking, everybody knows it. Imagine the pressure,
honestly,
on this new centre-forward for Arsenal. Everybody's looking at them, and everybody's just going to expect, yeah, there it is, missing piece of the jigsaw. We're going to win the league now. The pressure on that number 9 at Arsenal.
And I remember when Dennis came. You know, Dennis didn't score for maybe 7, 8 games. People were going crazy, talking about, oh, it's a flop, and it was only 7 million quid. We saw what he turned out to be. But at the same time, it's just vitally important that whoever we get is ready to go and he's capable of dealing with the kind of pressure that Michael just rightly mentioned. Because as soon as we sign a striker and he's the striker, people say, okay, so that's Arsenal's final piece. And it's not that simple. Because I still feel that probably, like, hopefully the midfield's done in respect of Zubimendi. I feel a backup centre-back would be very good as well. When you look at Kiwior, he's coming in, he's done very well towards the end of the season, but you feel like another one coming in would be great. I feel, you know, maybe people talking about a left-back because maybe Lewis Skelly goes into midfield, whichever. But I just think if we can, I think that's even a second goalkeeper. Defender, midfield, forward. I'd be happy if we could get 4, maybe 5 players in that order of quality. But, you know, that's just me, just wishful thinking, I think.
And the forward, you know, just off the top of my head what Wright is saying, and you're making the point there, everyone thinks That's completed the jigsaw. I mean, players like Romelu Lukaku, when he went to United and Chelsea, everyone thought that, didn't they?
Yeah.
£85 million, proven in the Premier League, just scored 20 league goals for Everton. That's it, done. And for whatever reason, at 2 clubs, it wasn't the answer. It's such a hard find.
And the price tag's going up now, so 85 million is the figure you've just mentioned.
Well,
the previous striker.
Yeah.
But the equivalent now of a Lukaku that's pretty much guaranteed to score those, it would be nearly double that. I mean, we mentioned Isak. I don't think he will move, but I mean, if you are getting someone like that, you're talking 150 plus nowadays for the real proven. You know, Darwin Núñez had never played in the Premier League before, and he was 85 or something. So that's still unproven at 85. I mean, if somebody comes available that is that elite, Arsenal are just going to have to put all their eggs in that basket and get it, because that is a position that, you know, it's just the most important position. I know listen, if you're going to win the league, every position is important. People will say, oh, you can't win a league without a good keeper or a good centre-half or a good number 6, etc. But really, a centre-forward, all kinds of
And is
problems.
that why they're 15, one of the main reasons why they're 15 points behind Liverpool?
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, you just said the stat. There's hardly any.
Their top 3 goal scorers are still 4 behind Salah.
It's
combined.
incredible. I mean, imagine Arne Slot when he wakes up and just picking the team. Well, he goes in because he's virtually guaranteed a goal every game. I mean, you're hoping, when you pick the Arsenal team, you're thinking, where are the goals coming here? And it might not just be an attacker. Arsenal might need goals from other areas, because if there's 3 players that still can't score as much as Salah in their best 3, or their high scoring 3, then they might need another attacking wide player, or someone that can score plenty of goals, or an attacking midfielder.